Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you hear laughing in the background, that's Nico upstairs watching a movie. Hopefully it won't be too loud. So today's topic, I am covering how I used to view relapse as not a serious thing at all and how I view relapse now. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jackie. I'm a recovering addict, and here I like to share my struggles and things I've learned in my recovery and running my small business, aka where you know me as Goody Stash. So I used to view relapse as a very lighthearted thing. I didn't take it. It's like I didn't take it seriously. Kind of like when you go into treatment, they basically make it sound like, in my mind, they made it sound like everybody relapses. So if you relapse, just pick yourself right back up and start your recovery over. And I saw that kind of like how I used to see confession. I was raised Catholic. Sorry, it's hard for me to figure out how to say this. So when I started to go out and commit crimes and just be a really shitty person in general during my addiction, I used to see being Catholic as like a free pass. I would kind of joke and be like, it's all good because I can confess this and it's like it never happened. And that's kind of like how I saw relapse. It was like, it's okay because I can just start over tomorrow and it's like this never happened. I took it very lighthearted. I took committing crimes very lighthearted in a way because I was willing to throw away my life for one night, and I was willing to risk everything for one night of fun, really. And I also was doing the same. I was also doing the same thing with relapsing. I was taking it really lighthearted. When my perspective started to change and I started to take relapses more seriously, it was almost too late for me at that point. Because one time in particular, I remember going out to use, and this was in my mind just one night of using, but my addiction progressed to the point where I couldn't stop once I started. So that one night turned into years of using, and this was like using against my will. Not that I wasn't making the choice to use, but I was powerless over my addiction. It was like the addiction was running me at that point. It was kind of like I used to sit up at late in the middle of the night, high out of my mind, and I would be drawing, and I was like trying to draw how I felt inside, and these things were like, they just looked like demons, on the paper. It just looked really evil. It just looked like evil shit. That's how I felt on the inside. And I started taking my relapses more seriously when I was using, but I no longer wanted to be using, but I was using because I didn't know how to stop using. Because when I stopped using, all I could think about was using again. See, my mind became obsessed. That was like the obsession. And also, it was that I was physically dependent on the drugs. So if I didn't use, I got really sick. I went into really severe withdrawals. It was almost like it felt unbearable to not use. It felt like so painful when I wasn't using. I remember in my very early sobriety, I verbalized it as like, it basically felt like I had just ingested a bunch of glass shards and the shit was just cutting through me all inside and nobody could see it, but that's how I felt. I just felt like I was bleeding from the inside out. I was just in so much pain, and nobody could see it, right? This is inside turmoil. This is inside guilt. This is inside hatred from the way I had been living my life. And when I became sober is when I started to feel all that. And that's why it was easier for me just to keep using. But it came to a point where I didn't want to use anymore. Using was painful. Not using was painful. I was trapped. I was trapped in the obsession. I was trapped in the powerlessness of my addiction. I was trapped in that that constant battle of don't use, don't use. You have to use. You can't use anymore. You need to use. It just back and forth with myself. And another time, and I started to take relapse a lot more seriously because I had overdosed several times on relapses. When I started overdosing, I started to have this fear of dying as a result of the drugs killing me. It was like I was okay with dying, say somebody's shooting me, somebody's stabbing me, somebody even hitting me with a car. I was more okay to die in that way. But to die because of drugs that I myself put in my body, to me that was like a really shameful thing. It really bothered me. It really scared me. I didn't want to become just another statistic, just another junkie, just another drug addict that died in their addiction. That really started to bother me. As I started to use so much to the point where it was getting very dangerous, I remember one time in particular, I used and I just, all of a sudden, I just hit the floor. It was like my body just shut down and everything went in like super slow, almost like everything was just shutting down. I couldn't do anything. I was on the floor. I couldn't get my body to move in any way, but my mind was still going. I couldn't get up. And I think in times like that, it became very clear to me that nobody cared. Nobody cared what happened to me as far as like the type of people I was hanging out with, because on that particular day, I hit the floor and there was somebody in the far corner of the apartment, and he didn't get up at all. He just let me be there. And eventually I came out of that, and I think when I did, I just saw things differently. I saw that it was every man for yourself. It really was. And I remember thinking, I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to overdose in one of these houses and be just another number, just another body, just another person that didn't make it out. My very last overdose, I was clean for a while, and I broke my arm and I was prescribed prescription pain pills. And I remember taking the pain pills, and the pills, like, I wasn't expecting them to trigger me. I didn't know much about being clean for a while and then taking a prescription pill, because prior to that all the substances I was taking were illegal, so I wasn't really thinking much. Yeah, I was taking pills, but they weren't prescribed to me, so I was taking pretty strong pills. So this was the first time in my sobriety that I was prescribed hydrocodone, and I took the hydrocodone, and then that triggered in me, like, think of it like a monster that's lying inside me, and the monster was sleeping. It felt like by taking the pill, the monster's eyes opened up. And so I'm like, okay, this feels good. I like it. I miss this. I take another pill. It's like the monster is standing up. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go get something to drink, because I know if I drink while I'm taking the pills, it's going to amplify how I feel. So then once I start drinking, I'm just on a full-blown relapse. And what I failed to realize was, because I hadn't been using for so long, my tolerance was way low. So I didn't need to take as much as I normally would take of any substance for it to put me into the position to possibly overdose. So that's when I did overdose. I took the entire bottle. I drank a lot of vodka. I don't even remember how much, as I was taking the bottle of pills. I don't know how long I was taking the pills. I don't know how long I was drinking. I know it all happened in one night, and then the ambulance was called, and I woke up in the hospital because I overdosed. The paperwork was very clear, and just seeing it in black and white, the reason for my stay, OD, overdosed. It was like before, when I would overdose, it wasn't as scary because I guess maybe it wasn't a true overdose, like in the instances where I just hit the floor and I lost consciousness for a little bit and then I kind of slowly came back and everything was like in slow motion. In those instances, maybe I didn't truly overdose, but the few times that I went to the hospital and they wrote it in black and white on the paper, overdose, the reason I'm in here, the reason I'm being treated, overdosed, overdosed, OD. It was like when I saw it in black and white, I couldn't ignore that it really happened, but when it happened inside an apartment, I could play it off like maybe I just overamped. Maybe I didn't truly overdose. I may have not, but because I wasn't treated for it, it didn't seem as serious. It seems scary, but also the fact that other people didn't play into it made it also seem less serious, like, so looking back on it, some of the times that I became unconscious and then what I woke up to, that horrifies me to this day, and I can't believe I let myself go that low. But during the time, it seemed like, okay, I took it too far. Let's not do that again. But then I would do that right over again because it didn't kill me, so it just kept going. So what I used to see as not serious at all, relapsing, now I see it as lethal. Now I see it as deadly for me personally and really for any other addict, because you never know how a relapse is actually going to go. And I noticed a pattern looking back on a lot of my relapses. It was almost like I can see them as like traps, right? Because just like when I used, I never knew what the outcome was going to be. I never knew if it was going to be a happy, fun, like, I never knew what kind of experience I was going to have. Was it going to be fun? Was I going to have a good time? Or was it going to turn into a total nightmare? And that's kind of how I see the relapse. Like there would often be that first use, which was really good, and then it would convince me that you got this, like, okay, you're back and you got this and you can do this. That I took it as like a sign. That first use, if it was a good one, it was like I was off to the races. If the second use was a total disaster, a total nightmare, I justified it because it was like remembering that first use. I'm like, but I just had a really good one, so I'm gonna get another one of those. And then I would chase that. I would chase those good highs, just like I would chase that perfect bag. Like I needed that perfect batch that was manufactured specifically for me. And until I found that, I didn't want to quit. There was always like something else I was reaching for. And it was always unattainable because in my mind I built it up to be this thing, like this perfect batch of dope that was just specially customized for my specific personality. I just became obsessed with these very bizarre things that could never materialize unless I was actually going to have somebody manufacture shit just for me, because that's how self-absorbed I actually was. I thought the world revolved around me. So I see relapse as a huge trap. I see relapse as a very, very serious thing. I see relapse as non-negotiable for me. And for the longest time, my husband would tell me that when he stopped using, he didn't use like I used, but I remember he used to tell me that and I was in the very early stages of my recovery, and he would say things like, I just don't use, I just don't do it. And like that didn't make any sense to me, because I had like this obsession with using and I could never turn it off. But the longer I've not used, now I'm able to actually say that like using for me is non-negotiable. I will not use, I will not do it, because I know using for me is deadly, and I want to be here for my son. I want to be here for him. I want to have a good life. And I know if I use, I'm throwing everything away. I'm throwing everything I worked for. That monster's eyes are waking up the second I use, and I'm not going to be able to turn that shit off. And I know that now. And that's why for me, relapse is very serious. I don't see it as lighthearted at all. I don't see crime as lighthearted at all. I don't see sin as lighthearted at all. I know we all sin, we're all sinners, but I'm not looking to go out and sin every night. If you're that type of person that struggles with these type of things, and you are relapsing a lot and you're not really taking it serious and you're thinking like you're going to find that perfect use again just like the first time you used, don't hold your breath, because shit is not going to turn out the way you have it in your head, and it's only going to, in my experience, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get so bad, and by the time you want to stop, you're going to be physically stuck. You're going to be physically dependent on the drugs again. You're going to be mind fucked by all that shit. And I just would not hold your breath. You are not missing out if you quit. You really aren't. You are not missing out if you decide to quit. By not quitting, I can now see I was blocking out my ability to live the life that I always wanted. I was always a dreamer, right? I would get high and I would dream and I would think about like, I'm gonna do this, and I would like tell people about all this stuff, and nobody cared because I wasn't doing anything. I was just getting high. But when I cut out the shit and I stopped using, there was like a long period where I just had to not use and have that be my main focus and work on my inner issues and go to a lot of therapy and go to a lot of meetings and do all these things to figure out how I was able to just figure out a way to where I could not use drugs anymore, to where I could not drink anymore. And then once I was able to do that, I started to slowly be able to plug away at these things that I had always wanted to do. And if you told me back then that if I didn't use, I was going to be able to write books, I was going to be able to design journals, I was going to be able to do art and put it on the internet for other people to, I was going to be able to build my own website. I could start a blog if I wanted to. I could start a YouTube channel. I could open an online store. I could be my own boss. If you told me that I could actually do all this stuff, I don't know. Like, would I have kept using? I want to hope that I wouldn't have. But the crazy thing is, by finally stopping using, I was still able to start doing all these things. And I am just so excited every day that I have here, because I'm able to do the stuff that I've always wanted to do, and using was just holding me back from that. And I just want that for other people. I want to share this, because if you're using still, but you don't enjoy it anymore, like it's more misery than it is fun. It's like stop being fun and now it's just something you do because you don't want to be sick. You do it because you're just getting by. You do it because if you don't, you're going to have a stomach ache, you're going to have the shits, you're going to have, your body's going to start shaking. If you don't do it, you basically are not able to function. If you don't do it, you're going to be throwing up. If you don't do it, you're going to be feeling everything. You're going to be in so much pain that you're just curled up in a ball on the bed. If that's why you're using anymore and you're not using because you love it, it's not fun anymore, it's misery, get your ass to a detox, because you're missing out on life. Because now that I'm clean, I'm actually able to connect with other people. I'm actually able to feel their energy. I'm actually able to put off a good energy. I'm actually able to put off a good vibe to other people. I'm actually able to feel the love of others, for them to feel my love, to be connected to people in a way that I never was before. I'm able to be my true self and be okay with that. I'm able to look in the mirror and not throw up 2 seconds later because I'm disgusted with myself and I hate myself. I'm able to be a true version of myself and not some watered down junkie dope fiend version of myself. I'm able to be a true friend to my husband. I'm able to be a supportive mom to my son. I'm able to be present. I'm able to be present in the moment. I'm not always thinking about when I can get out of a room so I can use again. I'm not always thinking about escaping. And most importantly, I don't have that obsession anymore. And if you told using me that I wasn't going to have that obsession to use anymore, that was eventually going to go away, that would have been the greatest source of hope for me. Because I thought, just like the voices I was hearing towards the end of my addiction all the time, that I couldn't shut that shit off, I thought that obsession to use was never going to turn off, and it was just easier to give into it than to fight against it. But I'm telling you, that obsession finally did go away from me. Don't get me wrong, I get triggered, I get urges to use, but that's not the same as that nagging inner obsession to use from the moment my eyes open up till the moment my head hits the pillow. That urging, that itching, that wanting, that craving to use every day, all day long, that obsession, that has been lifted. And I thank God so much for that, because that was one of the most powerful things that has ever happened to me in my recovery. And I'm so grateful for that, because now I feel free. I feel free to live life, free to enjoy life, and I feel freer than I've ever felt before, even freer than I felt the first time I got high. And anybody that's gotten high knows what I'm talking about. I'm free from the idea of thinking that drugs are going to fill me up with happiness. I just wanted to put that message out there, because if you're struggling and you're still in the grips of using, or if you know somebody that is, it does get better. It really does get better. It takes time, it takes work, it takes patience, it takes perseverance, it takes sacrifice. But as you go on and as you push through, it really does get better. It is really worth it. So really keep working on it. And you're in my thoughts, you're in my prayers. The family of addicts, as well as addicts still out there struggling. Keep pushing. You got this. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay strong, stay grateful, and stay positive.